April 1st, 2024. Cass County Commission meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Sherling,
Here.
Commissioner Breitling,
Here.
Commissioner Peterson,
I'm here.
Commissioner Grinberg,
Here.
Commissioner Capitan.
I am here.
All right, thank you. We have a quorum. Taylor, if you please lead us in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commissioners, you have before you prior meeting minutes. If so, I'd look for a motion to approve.
Moved.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Moving second and prior meeting minutes be approved as presented. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Order of the agenda. You have that before you with no amendments, Taylor, correct? You have before you look for a motion to approve.
So
Order of
moved.
the agenda. Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Moving second, order the agenda be approved as presented. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Same sign. Order of agenda is approved. Consent agenda. Commissioners, you have before you the consent agenda. Hope you had a chance to review it. If so, look for a motion to approve or amend or discuss.
Move to approve.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Moved and seconded, the consent agenda be approved as presented. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion? If not, roll call, please.
Commissioner Capitan,
Yes.
Commissioner Grinberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Sherling,
Yes.
Commissioner Breitling,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson.
Yes, consent agenda is approved as presented. Now is time for public comment. If you are not on the agenda today, you are welcome to address the commission. And I think we have a welcome visitor. Hello, come on up, introduce yourself, let us know who you are, and tell us your story.
Hello, my name is Kelsey Augustine. I'm the Executive Director at Restore Community Corrections. So we've been providing services to the judicial system in Cass County here since 1992. We are requesting to be placed on the agenda in the future for funding assistance. We supervise unsupervised cases for the court here, individuals who are sentenced with chemical dependency, domestic violence, mental health, any of those conditions that don't have a probation officer to follow up on that compliance. So that's where our role is, and we are seeking funding to continue that program. We were using funding from a different program, and that program has been cut back. Therefore, the only source of funding for this program is fees paid for by the offenders, which in 2023 was approximately $20,000. It does cost us about $70,000 a year to operate the program. So we're seeking assistance funding-wise for that program for Cass County. I do have a letter kind of summarizing all of that, if you guys would like that.
That would be outstanding. Did you email anyone other than myself?
No.
Okay, so commissioners, just to give you a bit of a background here, she emailed me regarding this item a couple weeks ago, plus or minus, and this was the approach that Mr. Wilson suggested come present, and I do think you should be on the agenda formally in the future.
Yep.
Do share the letter if you have copies for
Yep.
all of us. If
Yep.
not, and then what we've typically done, and Mr. Wilson in our financial team can walk you through this, but typically, much like any other organization, you really disclose all of your operational funds, and you can look at prior meetings. In fact, we have budget books on my desk. You want to take a peek at it for other situations like yours or other businesses or organizations like yours that need a little bit of help.
Okay.
You come through and say, here's the money we spend, here's the money we need, and then this commission normally doesn't make budget adjustments mid-year. Normally it's an annual basis, but of course, you're always welcome to come and talk at us, and the commission can do what the commission wants to do. So
That sounds good.
share the letter, and please let us know when you want to be on the agenda next. And to do that, you'll either you can just contact Taylor directly.
Commissioners, I would add that this is a very, very important service that Restore provides for the county. When I was visiting with a judge after court today, she said, well, what are we going to do without it? It's literally anytime somebody is placed on unsupervised probation and they have a domestic violence assessment inventory and follow through, a chemical dependency evaluation, if they're going to do community service, this is what we rely on to monitor those people. Parole and probation, they don't do it. They don't have the resources to do it. Restore has done a great job operating on a shoestring budget for years. And it will be people will be not held accountable if this program ceases to exist unless we figure out a different way to do it. And I think they do it pretty cost effectively. So just wanted to put that out there.
And Birch Burdick was on your board of directors. I Googled you to make sure. I'll be frank.
Yes. No,
So
yeah.
I don't know enough about you.
Sure.
So I actually did some research. I actually pulled your non-profs. I pulled everything.
Okay.
And Kim, Ms. Hedvig, our state's attorney, and my administrator, Mr. Wilson, got all this from me, saying, okay, here's what it is. They appear to be real, and that's why I found Mr. Burdick was on your board. And then Ms. Hedvig reminded me that she's got, who's on their board now?
Nick Samuelson.
Nick, sorry, yeah, so you have a state's attorney
Correct.
on your board now too, so. You actually are real. Congratulations.
Yes, we are.
And it
Very
appears you're
much
not in
so.
violation of any taxing authorities either, also a good thing. Commissioner Brightling.
Who are you receiving these grant funds from in the past?
In the past, so we haven't received funds for this monitoring service from a different source at all. We were getting funds from the state for a different program that was overfunding us for that program. Therefore, we were using that for this as well.
What state program was that?
That was the Community Connect Free Through Recovery program.
Thank you.
Yes. We also had to increase our wages in 2022 by 30% because we were that far behind in market rate for wages. So that was an added expense that has impacted us as well.
You exceeded your time, but that's okay.
Okay.
Let us know when you want to be on the agenda and we'll have a more formal discussion at that time.
Thank
And
you.
again, contact either Taylor or Mr. Wilson and they'll make sure you get whatever information is prudent to us.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for your time today. Anyone else under public comment? I don't see anybody else online. Taylor, do you? Okay, and with that, let's move on to our regular agenda. Item 1 of the regular agenda, tax incentives for Board of State Industries. Mr. Gilmore, welcome, sir.
Thank you. I don't know if we can get the map up that would show the location of this site, but it's up in northwest Fargo. You can see it on the screen there. It's a large site that Board of States has the option on. This site would be a large distribution center. You can tell the advantages of the site. It's close to the interstate and close to other sites, also quite large, and so this would probably be the first phase, a 350,000 square foot warehouse with the ability to add over 200,000 square feet more in the future. The disadvantages of the site is the infrastructure was extremely expensive. And so there's other industrial parks in other cities where it would be more cost effective to locate this facility, which is why the city, in order to try to stay competitive, is proposing a 10-year, 100% property tax exemption. It'd be on a $38 million facility. I do note that the land value will be $4.3 million as this converts to industrial, and so they would pay the full property tax on that $4.3 million in value. The Fargo City Commission unanimously approved the property tax exemption. The West Fargo School District also unanimously voted to participate in this property tax exemption. So we're seeking county support today. I think I'll bring up Ryan Oshheim to talk about the economic benefits of this. Ryan's with EDC, and then we have Tony from the Board of States Electric who can talk about this facility. But if there's any questions for me.
Commissioner Grinberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Gilmore, just a comment, you say costs are higher for this piece of land. Is that largely because of the infrastructure not presently there? One of the questions I had with this, because I've heard about Sioux Falls, it's cheaper in Sioux Falls. Well, concrete costs the same in Fargo as it does Sioux Falls, but is it really because of the infrastructure's not there?
A lot of cities will pay to put the infrastructure in. So for instance, Sioux Falls has received EDA grants that have put in infrastructure.
Okay.
And so that's the fact. However, the infrastructure to the south of this, where the buildings are now, this infrastructure is probably 60 to 70% higher. The other stuff went in pre-COVID. This is post-COVID. There's some characteristics with the stormwater that make this more expensive. I'm not sure they would have done it if they would have realized what these final costs were going to be.
Thank you. And maybe just a comment, Mr. Chairman. EDA is Economic Development Administration by the U.S. Department of Commerce. Very typical for them to provide local communities and subdivisions grant funding for economic development. Many communities use that for streets, water, and sewer. I don't know if that's been the case in Fargo with EDA funding. I think it's been more
Yeah, I think if you go back decades, some of the industrial parks west of the interstate did receive some EDA funding.
Then I can get in my head why the cost difference and why
Yeah.
there's an advantage because of that infrastructure being paid for and stuff.
Mr. Gilmore, is their office off their benefit, building they built some years ago? It should be close, if not, it's not.
The office was 100% for 5 years. I believe they're beyond that, and they're starting to pay at a 50% value. I'd have to look that up.
And it steps up to the next 5, right?
Yes.
10? Yeah, I mean, they've got to be close to being off. Yeah, okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Ashheim, welcome.
Thank you, members of the commission. Yeah, I'll just make a few comments. Ryan Osheim with the Greater Fargo-Moorhead Economic Development Corporation. So we work primarily with primary sector companies, border states being one of those. And just in perspective of the economic impact and investment of this project. So, I mean, most of this is in your packet, but $46 million capital investment, 350,000 square feet, 60 new full-time employees, $4.5 million in payroll by year 2. And just to give a little bit of perspective in terms of the last 5 years of primary sector projects that we've worked on and been involved in, this is in the top 5. So this would be the 5th largest project in capital investment by a primary sector project that we've worked on. I think Jim mentioned it. We're very much in competition for this project. And so this pilot is being requested to offset some of the extraordinary costs that were part of the land acquisition. And so with that, I'm going to ask Tony Cerati, VP of Operations and Supply Chain with Border States, to share a little bit about the project and give you some more perspective on what they're planning.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Commissioners. Appreciate the opportunity to be here and for your consideration of the pilot. Tony Cerati, Vice President of Operations, representing Border States. I've been with Border States for over 20 years, so well established in the company. A brief overview of Border States for those not familiar. We've been around since 1952, headquartered here in Fargo, North Dakota. Over the last 20 years, we've grown from a $300 million top-line revenue company. We just passed, from a rolling 12 revenue perspective, $4 billion. So we've had a 26% CAGR over the last 20 years. So substantial growth. We have 9 locations in the state of North Dakota, 3,200 employee owners across the country, over 125 locations in 30 states. We are a 100% employee-owned company, so we're one of the largest ESOP companies in the United States. A big part of our culture, our brand, and kind of who we are. So this project specifically, so obviously we have a long-standing relationship with the county and the city of Fargo. We have our facility, branch operating facility, which is just off of 25th Street, south of Main Avenue. We've been there since 2015, 2016. And then we have our corporate headquarters that was built in 2019, just off of I-29 South, where we have just about 300 employee owners that work in that facility. So this project, we have pretty substantial growth objectives within the organization over the next 5 to 10 years. Our goal is actually to grow our revenue to over $10 billion by 2030. In order to do that from a supply chain and operations perspective, we have to scale the business. And this is going to be our first central distribution facility. And what that means, essentially today, we operate very independently in all of our operating branches to serve customers in our 3 markets of utility, construction, industrial. This is going to be really a multi-echelon supply chain, heavy inbound consolidation, redistribution to our branches to scale the business differently from a labor, productivity perspective, technology, inventory investment, et cetera. So this is really our first entry into this model. We anticipate building at least 4 of these facilities over the next 7 years across the United States. We want to start in the upper Midwest. Obviously, we're well established in this part of the country. This will probably be our hardest entry into this type of model, so we want it to be close to our home base. So that's really what we're trying to accomplish. Ryan mentioned a lot of the schematics of the facility. We anticipate this will be around 350,000 square feet. We've just completed essentially the design of the building. We anticipate more than 60 full-time roles year one. 75% would be full-time warehouse professional roles. The balance, 25%, would be various leadership, maintenance type of positions. All will be paid competitive wages, and all full-time roles would be part of our employee ownership stock program. So why we're here today. Ryan mentioned this is a competitive position. And while we are exploring multiple communities, we wanted to be here. We have a longstanding relationship with the city. We want to be in Fargo. This is home for us. But at the same time, we have a fiduciary responsibility to our customers and to our owners to make sure that this is the right decision. And if we were not to receive this pilot program based on the special assessment costs and comparing apples to apples with other markets that are available, it's just not competitive to be here. So one of the questions that I am sure will be asked, and I'll just get to it to be really direct, is would we put this here without the incentive? And the answer is we probably wouldn't. We have a really hard choice to make, and frankly, the numbers don't make sense. So appreciate your consideration and happy to answer any questions you guys have.
All right, thank you, sir. Questions, commissioners?
More of a comment. This is an ESOP business, and I'm very supportive of employee-owned companies.
Commissioner
Might as
Grimberg.
well, I mean, again, high level, the point that Mr. Gilmore made with my question, I mean, the costs are significantly lower because of federal funding in Sioux Falls, and so the competitiveness, it just kind of equalizes it. We make the decision locally to equalize it, so.
Any questions for our owner's representative? All right, sir. Thank you much.
Thank you.
All right, commissioners, discussion, further questions? A motion?
Move to approve.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion? If not, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Grinberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Capitan,
Aye.
Commissioner Sherling,
Yes.
Commissioner Brightling.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Look forward to working with you.
Mr.
I know you'll build in the Fargo-Moorhead metro area.
Thank you, Chairman. Maybe a comment before Mr. Gilmore leaves, and particularly Mr. Ashheim. This program was adopted by the legislature in 1994 when Governor Ed Schaefer called a special session to request the legislature approve the payment in lieu of tax program up to 20 years. At the time, the intent was for primary sector businesses. That legislative action, which was all but one vote in both the House and Senate, there was one no vote, was to lure the Pro-Gold wet milling plant in Wapaton as an incentive. Point I'm making is history. In my judgment, some of the mission or the intent of incentives has maybe changed a little bit over the years. And I mentioned to Mr. Gilmore earlier, we had a conversation a year ago or so about having collaborative discussions between the county and the city on the economic development incentives. It became apparent to me a few weeks ago when I was talking to one of the City of Fargo's private sector members on the Economic Development Committee about the background, the history, orientation around the incentives, so that when a new private sector member comes in, they have some understanding of the history of these programs when they're asked to make decisions. I just throw that out as another suggestion that between the EDC and the city and the county, it might be worth the effort to put some more thought in about some kind of a historical program and incentives, what it is and what it's not. And for what it's worth, I said to Mr. Gilmore, I was going to throw that out. So.
All right, sir. Thank you, team. Appreciate you guys. Item 2 on our agenda, Central Cass, School District Animal Assisted Intervention Program Request. Sheriff, I think that's you, right?
That is me, yes.
All right.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, I've got my good friend with me, Superintendent Morgan Fornes, who's been a great partner with us. He's, of course, the superintendent out at the Central Cass School. So what I wrote to you guys was a request for our office to purchase a cage in the amount of $6,404.92. So basically what Central Cass is working on right now is this school-wide animal assisted intervention program. And it's a way, and I could have Mr. Fornes explain it here a little better in just a few minutes, but it's a way for both the school and our school resource deputy program to reach individuals within the school who might be struggling with different types of needs, mental health needs, relationship needs, things of that nature to help them be successful in school. And so Mr. Fornes had this idea a little while back, and he's been visiting with our school resource deputy, and they very much wanted to get this program launched and implemented. And through the course of doing that and his discussion with our school resource deputy, Jason Scott, who's out at Central Cass, they've agreed to kind of somewhat form a little bit of a partnership for the program in the fact that Jason, our school resource deputy, would like to take the dog to his house and keep it there and care for it. The dog's already been purchased, it's been trained, but Jason would like to build that relationship with the dog so that kids come into his office, they feel comfortable coming in and visiting with him. He's got the relationship with the dog, so it makes it an easy transition for children to visit with him. And he's got an understanding of the dog and how the dog works. So he wants to bring this dog home with him every day and back to school so he can work with it on a continued basis. Of course, we would prefer that he doesn't transport the dog without a cage in his vehicle, because there's several things that could happen when he transports the dog. Maybe he gets into a vehicle crash. Maybe he comes across a call for service where someone flees from him and he ends up chasing the individual. I'm just throwing out some hypotheticals here. And the individual runs into a tree row or something, right? And he's out on this call for service for 8-9 hours. We're trying to locate this person. The dog is in the vehicle and doesn't have access to a fan to keep the dog cool or heat and things like that, which this cage would do to keep the dog in good health. And so we would like to purchase this cage so we can transport the dog back and forth to the school. My request in getting the cage obviously is I feel that it would be appropriate for us to pay for the equipment for the cage because it would be in our vehicle. I don't know how it would work necessarily to have the school pay for the cage and then it's in our vehicle that we're using. I think that might be kind of a little tricky deal. Plus, we'll probably use that cage for our other dogs that we have from time to time because we've got other canines, so we could utilize it for different issues and stuff like that with our other dogs that we have. So I thought it was appropriate that we would pay for the cage, and then Mr. Fornes has agreed, the school has agreed to pay for the other parts of the program. And so that's really it. I'm just looking for the money or not the money, but just the request to purchase the cage. I would not need to ask for any extra funds for the cage. We could absorb it in our current budget, and we have donations that have been given to us, somewhere in the vicinity of around $7,000 from different community partners who have donated us money over the years for programs such as this. So I don't know if you'd like to hear from Mr. Fornes on
Yes,
on the
please.
program.
Sure. Thank you, Morgan Fornes, Superintendent, Central Cass. Thank you for hearing. Devil's in the details, I guess, and sometimes ideas, you have to jump through the hoops, so that's why we're here. But I first want to say I've appreciated the partnership with Cass County Sheriff's Department. When I first came to Central Cass, we did not have a full-time SRO, and it has transformed how we do life in the school and in the community with that shared partnership working for a common cause. I'll tell you that the collaboration has been beneficial for our students in multiple ways. Originally, we were dealing with a lot of drug and alcohol and vandalism issues with our juveniles. But when I first came to Central Cass, kind of had a reputation, I guess, that was not all that positive. And when we brought on our SRO, we really talked about being connecting with all the sectors of our society, of our community, and really working for making it a great place for kids on a proactive approach. And we've done a lot of things over the years. Vision Zero, it's a program that Officer Scott has helped us with in dealing with drinking and driving. He's in charge of our BERT team, our emergency response team, collaborating with fire department, with local responders, ambulance, all of that. Stop the Bleed program. So, I guess I'm a superintendent and I use the resources that are there, whether they're people resources or program resources, and we kind of work together to make those things happen. What's really happened in the last few years, and I probably post-COVID, is the mental health crisis has just exploded. And not only for our older kids, but also for young children, which is kind of unprecedented. And there's a lot of mental health expectations that get placed on schools. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of funding that comes with that. So, you know, if you can write a grant or you can partner with a program, those are the kinds of things that you work on. But there's requirements for social workers and therapists and all kinds of things. And a lot of times just de-escalating a situation. So when I heard about the K-12 animal assistance program, it was something that other schools are doing. It's proven to be a very effective tool to really help kids disengage from the issues that they're dealing with and calm them down so you can work through it. This program would provide the well-being for our students. It would be a therapy dog, a facility dog, and an educational dog that could be used in multiple ways. And the objective of the program is really, it's a tool to relieve stress, promote positive learning environment, and to strengthen community connections. So that's really where it's at. I support it as a strategy. It's a cost-effective strategy when dollars are limited. And Officer Scott just seemed like the logical person to be running the program for us, and that's why we approached the Sheriff's Department here. So it's something that we feel strongly about. We believe it has an impact, and I will say this, since our working together, we're very proud of the fact that it's been 3 consecutive years we've not had a juvenile defense in Castleton. And a lot of that has to do with the partnership with Cass County Sheriff's Department.
So, Mr. Chair, if I could circle back around, so very much like Mr. Fornes said, we have been very fortunate to be in a good relationship with he and his staff at the school, and most definitely that relationship has made a huge difference out in Castleton. He wasn't kidding when he said that initially we had a lot of problems out there. We did. We started a lot of programs. We worked through a lot of those programs together, and it's been very successful. And of course, that relates down the line to us having less issues, juvenile, and then those individuals turning into adults that we might later deal with in the city of Castleton as well, right? So it's all a positive relationship. Again, what I'm looking for here is the money to purchase the cage, or not the money, but I should say the approval to do it, because we need to put it in our car and then be able to transport that dog. But no additional funds requested. So.
And I will add that this is meant to be a partnership with other schools in Cass County as well. We share a lot of things, therapists and social workers, and this would be another tool in our mental health tool belt. So.
And you don't have the pup yet, right?
What's that?
You don't have the dog
No,
yet?
we do.
Oh, you do?
Yep.
Okay.
It's in training. It's being trained. It's been trained basically months of November on. So it's currently in the home, but we'd like to bring it into the school.
There was someone that wanted to donate the dog to the school for that purpose and train with it. So they were able to receive all that for free. So.
Okay. Commissioners, questions? Commissioner Capitan.
You've answered all my questions. I was wondering if the dog was already in hand and who's paid for that, but I will offer a motion. Unless somebody else out in discussion, otherwise I move to approve.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
This is a budget adjustment?
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Commissioner Breitling, yes.
It's a budget adjustment is what it is.
Yes, sir.
A budget
think that
adjustment, you mean, are you talking like a
commissioners-
line budget
Yeah, I mean,
adjustment?
it's technically no.
Okay.
Because you said you have the resources in place, but it's an
Yep.
acknowledgement by the commission the expenditure is going to transpire. Any further discussion? Any further discussion, check my online friends? All right, with that, let's do a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Breitling,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Grinberg, Commissioner Capitan,
Aye.
Commissioner Sherling.
Motion?
Yes.
Sorry, Commissioner Sherling, motion passes. Didn't mean to presume your vote, my apologies.
you
Sheriff
so
or
much.
Superintendent, anything else?
No, really
Okay.
appreciate it.
Thanks, board.
Thank you both. Procurement policy, it's Mr. Wilson, you're going to take this one, yes?
Yes, I will. I will take it. I would imagine that Ms. Madriga would probably have some comments as well. And this is a policy that the finance office worked with Ide Bailey to develop, and it came about because we realized we had a gap in our process when it came to federal funding. Back when we bid for the intake. Jail intake center, and we used CARES funds. We realized after the fact that there is a requirement when utilizing federal funds that you really have to have a portion in that RFP document that essentially asks bidders to certify that they're not on a blacklist, so to speak, that they haven't had negative prior activities to the point that they are recognized as not getting federally supported work. So we spent a little bit of time, number one, wondering how we missed that. And then realized that it was just, we deal with a very few programs that have the actual federal funds directed to us. Usually it's state funds, or other sources of funds where that just hadn't been an issue. Regardless, that's a very it's a requirement, and we need, when we were made aware of that, we need to beef up our policy to recognize that and work within that. In Ide Bailey's work with the finance department and director, they really utilized developed an overall procurement policy, because we've got some elements in our policy that had not been updated in recent years, and this was just a good opportunity to give it an overall review and do better where we can do better. So the policy is attached for your review. As the memo states, there are 3 sections to that. There's purchasing and procurement, grant administration requirements, and finance department grant-related requirements. I would, in having a conversation with a couple of you, I think there are a couple of, there's one element that at least a couple of commissioners have keyed in on, and that is that this policy defines 3 different levels of purchases. Micro purchases are up to $10,000. Small purchases are between $10,000 and $200,000, and then formal purchases are more than $200,000. Obviously, state statute directs how we will deal with anything over $200,000 with bid requirements, and that the statutory direction there is quite clear. The micro purchases would be something potentially that you want to ask me about or debate, but if approved as drafted here, according to current policy, the purchase order policy 1483, drafted in 1994, I believe it was, directs purchases over $5,000 to receive commission approval prior to the purchase, and this would move that level, that minimum amount to $10,000. So that's I'd say a Reader's Digest version of a 17-page policy, and Ms. Madriga may have other details that she'd like to share with you if you do not have any questions for me.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Let's let Ms. Madriga discuss as she sees fit, then we can ask questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I don't have a lot to add subsequent to that. However, I did want to note that this is a little bit more robust than we had initially intended. And so as we go through the years and ensuring that the different departments or whomever needs to utilize this policy is easily able to do so. So we'll continue to try to make it a little bit more user-friendly as we move forward.
All right, thank you both. Anything else, Mr. Rodriguez?
That's all, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, Mr. Wilson?
Nothing more for me. I'd stand by for questions.
Questions, commissioners? Maybe while you're thinking, I'm struggling with the 10,000. I'm more comfortable with the 5. So I will not support the 10,000, but I would support the 5, and I obviously support the policy as a whole because we needed to have it some time ago, and it is what it is, but we have it now, so that's the important part. Ms. Madriga.
If I may just answer a little bit about the 10,000, it is more just keeping it in line with the federal guidelines, with the Federal Code of Regulations and their micro purchases, not saying that for or against it, just that's why we did choose it for more clarity and consistency. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion, commissioners or questions? Commissioner Sherling, please.
Thank you. So I did visit with Robert about this a little bit, and I kind of likened it to having the opportunity to review the vouchers for the month. It's exceptionally educational to go through all of that, and I just really appreciate the department heads coming before the commission and explaining what their needs are, because we learn things about those departments that we maybe didn't know before, particularly when we rotate in and out as commissioners, and you're going to have some new folks sitting up there in short order. And I just think it would be a missed opportunity to raise that to 10. Thanks.
Commissioner Sherling, you and I had the exact same dialogue with Mr. Wilson, almost verbatim. I'm being sincere. It was educational. It has nothing to do, yes, it has something to do with fiscal responsibility too, but I like the idea that we have to be educated, whether we like it or not sometimes. So that's why another point of advocacy for this $5,000 number again, just from my perspective. Commissioners, any further discussion? Questions? A motion? Commissioner Grinberg?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'd move the suggested motion at the $5,000 level.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion? If not, roll call, please.
Commissioner Sherling?
Yes.
Commissioner Breitling?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Grinberg?
Aye.
Commissioner Capitan?
Aye. Motion passes. Mr. Wilson, anything further on this item?
Nothing further. I was just going to highlight that or mention that I think that that amendment tailored to one paragraph should be pretty easy to make and record as the approved policy.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. Ms. Madriga, anything else?
Nothing further, thank you.
Okay, thank you. On to vouchers. It was my time to review vouchers. I did review them. Much shorter than typically, that I've had historically, I shouldn't say typically. Now typically it's shorter. Historically, no. So it's good. With that, I'd look for someone to make a motion for approval, please.
I'll move.
I will second the motion. Any questions or any discussion on vouchers? Any discussion? Mr. Grimberg, Commissioner Grimberg, do you have a question? No, sorry. Okay. Any further discussion? If not, a roll call, please.
Commissioner Grinberg?
Aye.
Commissioner Capitan?
Aye.
Commissioner Breitling?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Sherling?
Yes.
Motion passes. Committee reports. Mr. Wilson, let's start off.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, thank you. First, I appreciate you permitting me to participate remotely today, feeling a little under the weather, and this is a great resource to be able to do this and still get everything done. Want to bring your attention to a conference that Mr. Henderson and I are going to be attending the end of next week. Reimagining local government, focusing on AI, artificial intelligence. So expect to learn a lot there. We'll bring it back then for a follow-up symposium meeting with a number of other local government organizations, including elected leaders and appointed department heads. That'll be later on in April. Really looking forward to all of this. As those of you know who were at the NACO Ledge Conference a couple of months ago, there's a lot of activity and conversation on the AI circle. So look to really learn some valuable information there. Then the only other thing that I would bring your attention to is we do now have, and I've had numerous communications with each of you on this, that we have a couple of community meetings set up in the late afternoon of Tuesday, April 16th in Page, and Monday, April 29th in Castleton. We will have press releases going out for both of those meetings here later this week. We'll also be alerting the public on the local AI meeting through use of a press release later this week as well. That concludes my report. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Commissioner Breitling.
I have no committee report at this time.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Sherling.
No report, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hedvig.
I am just sending you all the 2023 North Dakota Courts Annual Report. Might be interesting for you to read it if you haven't read one before, especially in Cass County in the East Central Judicial District. Criminal case filings are up, which you might expect. Last year there were 30 jury trials that happened. Of the criminal case filings, the new filings were 6,269. If you recall, my office's case numbers were up to over 9,700, but ours include all of the police reports that come in, not just the ones that we end up charging. So if you look just at that report, it won't give you the full update of what is happening in my office, but I think it'll give you a pretty good idea as far as the trending upward. Speaking of the dog, I just wanted to mention that in my office last week, we had the 2 West Fargo dogs come and visit, and they had some awesome stories about how in the schools those dogs can make a huge difference, especially with behavioral children, and bringing them into the classrooms, or even if a child is acting out in the classroom, when we bring them into the hallway, the de-escalation that happens is pretty remarkable. Over the last few weeks, we have been meeting with some vendors looking at options for digital caseload management and digital evidence management. And all of that became a whole lot more exciting and feasible when last week we had a consultation with a couple of people who represent Equitas, Equitas rather. It's a group that provides technical assistance to prosecutors' offices across the country. They're out of the Department of Justice, and one of the big things that came out of that meeting is the discussion of a grant. We may be eligible for a grant for up to $350,000 to help us move toward paperless. As you can imagine, I was pretty excited, and I think the possibilities for that are great for the entire office, all of my staff. It could make us a lot more efficient. It could save a lot of time, a lot of resources, allow us to provide our services to the community a lot more efficiently than we do right now. If you've been watching the news, it's been a very busy last week in terms of crime and violent crime in particular happening in our community. The service that we provide is very important, and the better we can serve the community, I think that makes the entire Cass County a better place to live. That's my report.
Thank you. Commissioner Capitan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have anything to report outside of the fact that on April, I lost it.
3rd and 4th.
There is the annual township meeting will be held in Castleton on the 10th, and not at the hotel. It'll be at the City Hall, the Veterans Auditorium, which is the same building, but just a little bit east of that. And then Wednesday and Thursday, I'll be attending veterans meetings along with Senator Hoeven, I presume. Outside of that, I have nothing more to report. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Grimberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just following up on Mr. Wilson's comments, shout out to Bob Henderson for his proactive approach, positioning the county as the organizer of the symposium around AI. Obviously reading a lot of stuff about AI now in the newspapers. State legislatures trying to decide how to approach it. I've had a number of elected officials express great idea. Glad somebody's taken the lead to get us together to have a discussion around AI locally. And so Bob gets a lot of credit for jumping on that idea and getting it out there and getting people's interest. I'm excited they're going out east for a conference, and then I expect there'll be a lot of people at the meeting on April 28th. That's all I have.
Thank you. Ms. Madriga.
Thank you. A lot of election prep in March. Myself and my team went out to Bismarck for our Secretary of State election training. And then the following week, we had our regional training where the election manager from the Secretary of State's office came to us to do some training. So we had a congregation of some of the auditors from around the area here. This upcoming Saturday, we have our group attending the League of Women Voters annual meeting, just to discuss a little bit about our upcoming election, polling places, etc. The auditor from Clay County will also be there attending that. Otherwise, we are actively trying to recruit our inspector list and plan to bring that to you shortly. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, we've all been busy. As a general reminder, some of us attended a get-together out in Bismarck. It was just county commissioners, which normally are auditors, treasurers, and our state's attorneys sometimes get together too. This was important. So it got 2/3 of the counties, over 80 commissioners in the room, and some of whom I have never met before. That's incredibly important. So getting those people engaged and getting them understanding what the association can do for them, the fact that our voice in Bismarck is incredibly important. I got to speak a little bit, had some very positive comments, made me feel pretty good about that too. Talked about if we're not in the room, someone will be. If we're not in those chairs, I promise someone will be. And getting involved nationally too is incredibly important. I know it's expensive. I know it's time consuming, and very few of us that do this get enough money to justify the time, but it's what we have to do. The thing I talked about there was during one of my subcommittee meetings, Justice and Public Safety, a couple of years ago in Washington, D.C., we had a 60-40 vote to not remove qualified immunity from our law enforcement. What we do is advocate for certain policies. Those policies would then be pushed to Congress. So 40% of the people in that room wanted to remove qualified immunity on a national level. That's a big deal, right? That then came up in Denver, and we quashed it down to 2 people. So over a calendar year, we went from a year and a half, I guess, we went from 40% of the people in the room saying police should not have immunity at all, no matter what, to 2 people in the room. And that got us as a group talking. We educated the rest of the team members and said, you don't understand what qualified immunity actually is, do you? So if we're not there in that room, I obviously spoke to that myself, but if we're not there in that room, someone will be in that room speaking on our behalf, whether we like it or not, and they may not like the same positions that we like. So I realize it's, like I said, 20,000 plus a year is what we get. So financially, it doesn't make sense for us, but we need to be there. So we as civil servants need to volunteer our time, and sometimes that's not in our personal best interest, but for the greater good, we have to be in those seats. Diversion meeting went well, and that concludes my report. With that, correspondence.
No correspondence.
All right, last item. So moved. Is there a second? Moved and seconded. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. We stand adjourned. Thank you very much for your time today. Quick meeting.